All right. So good evening. Welcome. My name is Carolyn Little, and tonight we have with us Marcela Eversole. She is a soul level astrologer and co-founder of a mystery school with her husband up in Vermont. And Alexandra Dusterfeld, who is a photographer and an artist. Yay. And Alexandra Venegas, who is a master logistics supporter of this whole coming together for Golden Chrysalis, which is the New Year's Women's Retreat that is happening in the Berkshire Mountains in Western Mass, January 2nd to the 5th. And we're coming together this evening to give you all an insight as to what you will experience over these 4 days and 3 nights out in those mountains, and how we might be starting off this new year and this new decade together. And there's been this really beautiful weaving. I'm just so excited about what has come together and who has come together, and who's joining us. So we just wanted to drop in and give you some of these snippets. The Golden Chrysalis, one of the reasons why we named it that is that with it landing right after the new year, that we're still in this state of the chrysalis, of really this like inner space of building this new foundation, of really what are the seeds we're planting to create these new structures as we move forward into the new year. And Marcela, you could add even more about that, how that came together actually as we were chatting that day.
Sure. So really this is the high spiritual time of the year coming into the solstice. And right now we're really in the most energized part. So as we come through solstice, oftentimes there is like a cloaking that happens energetically, which is really magical and beautiful. It helps us to be able to really tune into what's most important that's happening on the inside, so that the uniqueness of our own nature has a kind of protection around it that then gets supported through the natural cycles to come out. So this retreat this year is really happening during that cloaking time, and it will be really magical to be together, definitely in the mountains with each other. And even though we'll have that external support, there'll still be a really great contact with that inner realm that this retreat, in my experience last year, really helps to facilitate.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. It is a really special way when women come together in community like this, and when we're able to drop in and be vulnerable and to do practices that help us to be embodied and to get clear and to heal and to shed what we're releasing, what we're really, I've been thinking a lot about this completion and this big completion really that's happening of this decade, and how we're honoring that space and giving ourselves that space to honor what is completing and to fully receive all of the lessons and all of the gifts from that time. Which are so rich when we have that space to receive that, and then we can use that to inform moving forward. So that being said, in addition to daily yoga and meditation practices, those embodiment practices that help support this whole process, I'll be guiding everyone through a 2-day process of reflection and envisioning and mapping of our foundation really of the year to come and the decade to come. So this is a really potent time for us to be dropping into this space in this way. So some of the things that we're bringing in to make it even that much more powerful is that Marcela Eversole is going to be offering 45-minute soul level astrological readings to all of the participants prior to arriving. So we're in the process of scheduling those right now for who's joining us. And if you are thinking about joining us, this is a really important thing to know, because we want you to have this information and to already energetically be in this space prior to when we physically arrive at the retreat, because it's going to make the transformation really that much more rapid. We'll just be able to go right in. And with that, there is this beautiful piece coming together with Alexandra Dusterfeld, who is a brilliant photographer and also an artist, and she creates work that are soul portraits, that are archetypes of your essence, of really like your highest being. So Alexandra, if you want to share with us about like how you create those and where that inspiration comes from within you.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I've been an artist my entire life, and what I discovered very recently is that I do a lot of self-portraits, and there's this interaction that happens when you can visually see something in front of you that is you, and kind of have this conversation that's going on. So there are things that are not verbal and that can't really be verbalized or understood until you really like see this mirror. And so I realized very recently that I actually channel this way. And I kind of like knew that before, but like it really came into view, and I figured out I can also offer that for other people. And so I use so I'm a photographer, so I'm used to kind of holding space for people to feel safe, and so that they can relax, and then their essence can really show through, because it is a little bit like being under a spotlight sometimes. So I've become very good at just like creating this container for that to occur. And I'm just taking it a step further to really make this portrait an art piece of the things that you cannot see, the things that are coming out of you and that are, your soul essence, that I really have a clear vision of, when I like interact with people. It's like a gift of mine to really just cut through and see the essence, and not the issues or the problems, but the essence, which is always powerful and beautiful. It's always like the most spectacular, and so I will take pictures. We have this process, and that is an experience. And then I go and I just create from a very intuitive place, and I channel, and then you get this portrait where you can really see yourself and see your essence, and you're at your highest level. And of course, everything is malleable and it changes over time, but like, that is what it is right now. And as you've mentioned, it's a really potent time, right? And like, so it's really like this condensed and potent like piece of you, coming out in this like sacred time. So I'm excited to see what like will pop up for people in that. And then at the end you get a little like 5x7 that, when I've completed the process, that you can put on your altar and keep that as kind of a focus and a reminder of like who you are and your most powerful, beautiful self.
I love that so much. And I appreciate that immensely in photographers and how they can offer that opportunity to people. And I know for most women, how often we can look at an image of ourselves and the first comment is criticism.
Mm-hmm.
The first things we see are what we don't like or what we want to change. And so it takes a lot of self-love to move through those layers and really love that image that we see and celebrate that image that we see. So that's a beautiful skill, and I'm so glad that you are involved.
Yeah.
And it fits in so beautifully with that image with Marcela. And I love, this like soul essence and the soul astrology. And so Marcela, tell us more about the readings that you'll be offering.
I can't because I'm so excited. When Alexandra was talking, I just felt so moved by the depth of what she's saying. Is that her capacity for tuning into the essence of a person and naturally energizing and giving it life.
Yes.
And then having on top of that, right? Like if that's not enough, to just be in the presence of someone who's relating to you in your essentially perfected nature, then has a craft to capture a moment of seeing you in that state and experiencing you in that state is just like amazing. I just love that so much. And I identify with that so much too, that I feel like I have to sometimes actually bring in other minds or consciousness around me to actually help me see where I might need to have better boundaries, or I might need to relate to someone differently, because I just so much relate to what the brightest essential part of a person is. And the karmic and some of the distortions, they just don't really get through to me. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah, so I just feel like such a kindred spirit here. And even though this is our first time meeting. And then I just want to acknowledge you too, Carolyn, for just the way you breathe so much abundance and nourishment into everything that you do. It just, it's just such a gift that you just always are adding value. And I can just feel like this is such an example of the way that your magic comes through too, in which you feed the source of things, and you just keep feeding the beauty and the source, and that in it itself, it just like lets all the rest sort of ripple away with as much energy as you give the goodness. So just personally,
thank you.
I get to be there is really excited.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so let's see. Interestingly enough, when I describe my sessions and my readings, I also call them soul portraits. And I'm basically using a different craft, which is astrology, and tapping into what I experience as someone's blueprint, which is sort of the most clear, clean context that you could offer someone from that point of view, or from that higher perspective of what a big picture incarnated life might look like for that person, and how we can then go into a year, for example, like these sessions that we'll be doing before the Golden Chrysalis is looking at 2020.
Yeah.
And really focusing on what are the most opportune astrological events happening for that specific person that they might be able to key in on in order to do this mapping work that you're offering, Carolyn, in a way that actually takes into consideration their own sort of stellar path. So if 2020 for someone is going to be giving them a lot of growth opportunities when it comes to relationship, for example, then they might not have as much energy left for a huge project at work or something like that. So I think it can be really helpful. I know I'm still married in part because of astrology. And so whatever I can do to help give people timings, like, yeah, this might feel really hard now, but just give it a couple of months and then tune into it. Or, this might feel impossible, and it is. And actually who you become if you stick with the impossibility is someone you could never imagine you are. And that's why you get to be confronting what feels impossible. So we'll be taking the time before the retreat to sort of give everyone a personal blueprint for the year that they can then take into the planning session and actually be free of all the, I love astrology, and I also am always at odds with how much information astrology carries with it. And so that's why I want to do the sessions first, so that when we come into the space of embodied practice and presence, that's already been digested at some level, and then we can just really put it into the creative art of designing our lives.
So well articulated, Marcela.
I don't have Pluto on my Mercury right now. So.
This woman has Pluto in her Mercury, apparently, right now. So articulation was not at my forefront tonight. But Marcela has that one down. And that's actually what I love, what I appreciate so much about collaborations, and who I am fortunate to collaborate with on these projects and creating these experiences. So it's so beautiful. I'm just so excited about how this has come together. And so Alexandra Venegas has been working with me for some time, and I'd love for you to share with us what you are excited about for the Golden Chrysalis Retreat.
Yeah, no, it's been really exciting to work alongside you, Carolyn, and see your mind put all of these pieces together and really craft a really special experience for people to really come together and spend time with themselves. And this has been really hard for me, as you know. I don't spend a lot of time away from my children, and I was like, this is going to be really hard for me. And the little creepers in my mind start telling me that, like, I don't deserve this, or I just don't have the time, or my kids are going to need me too much. And it's just a great example of all of the excuses as women we can make for ourselves that get in the way of us taking the necessary time to come back to self. And I'm just really appreciative of the work that you're putting into making this magical experience, bringing in Marcela and Alexandra, and just the space that you're creating is just going to be so magical, and just really, really excited to be part of it.
Oh, thank you so much, Alex. And I'm so grateful for you sharing that piece about, can I be away from my children for that amount of time? Like, do I actually deserve to give myself this experience? And I know a lot of women feel that way. And a big part of why I create these is to offer the opportunity for us to rewrite that old, really just that old thinking. And as women who are so used to giving so much of ourselves away, I mean, we just give and give and give and give and give, that it's really at a point that we have to bring ourselves to the forefront, that we can only be that much more powerful and that much more effective and that much more of a lighthouse and a beacon in our families and in our communities when we are fully honoring ourselves and feeding ourselves and nourishing ourselves in every way that we can. And no doubt it takes a village too. So we've got to do it together. And there's plenty of hard things that we're all going through. Everyone, absolutely everyone I know. We are in the full spectrum of this crazy, messy, beautiful human experience. And the more that we can do it together, the better off we all are. So, yeah, thank you so much, Alex. Marcela, so I wanted to just think of a couple other things of what some people have had questions about in regards to this experience. And some are some practical, logistical questions of getting out there to the Berkshires. It's a wonderful retreat center, beautiful old house on this sacred land. And we're going to be coordinating ride shares. So wherever you're coming from, we're going to set that up and you can reach out to us. Let's see.
Don't forget to tell them about the food.
Oh my God. Yes. Food is so important. The food is an essential part of any experience, and especially this one where we are dropping in and transmuting this energy and then creating. Like, we really want to be at our highest point of creating. How the food supports us is essential. So a dear friend, an incredible chef, and also a holistic nutritional coach, health coach, Calum, is joining us for the 4th year, being our 4th annual year. And he just works wonders in the kitchen. So it's all mainly plant-based food, and we're going to be, I've also have been collaborating with a fantastic herbalist, Shannon of Noel Herbals. And so she and I just created some herbal tea mixtures that we're going to have those plant medicines supporting the process. So there's so many different ways that we're going to be supported through this. We've got the elements that we're surrounded by in the land, an outdoor hot tub. So we've got the frozen water, we've got hot water to submerge ourselves in, around being surrounded by the frozen water. Super nourishing, super clean food, which I know we also all need after the holidays. And I guess the other piece too is the sound bath. So there's a sound bath, which I just want to introduce that a bit, because if you've never experienced that before, it's hard to, you might not know what that means. So a sound bath is using specific instruments that resonate at one of the highest frequencies possible. And so a beautiful sound worker will be joining us to offer a sound bath on one of the nights. And what that does is, through the law of entrainment, is when there is a higher vibration resonating, any lower vibration rises to meet that higher vibration. So it's a deeply healing experience on the physical, energetic, mental, and emotional levels, like really on our complete being. So that is specifically brought in for release and integration and for elevating ourselves in part of the process. So, yeah.
I would just also add that my experience of the retreat last year was, well, there's so many, and I will have mercy on time. But I feel like there's ways that the retreat works with many different aspects of self. And the sound bath is a really important one, in that I love the way that you described it with the frequencies. And it also, my understanding is that it really also helps the right and left brain be able to work together.
Definitely.
And for me, because I actually have some different brain things that I'm still healing from a car accident. And I actually find that that's one of the only things that really activates that part of the healing process of my brain. And so while science hasn't really caught up to a lot of these alternative healing modalities that are being woven in, even yoga, for example, like there's just so many pieces that our sensory system take in with something that's been coordinated in this way, with the creative arts mixing with the food, with the yoga and sound, that it actually really does help to sort of prime the body and the capacity for integration to be happening, while we're also working with our mind and the clarity of mind to set direction and course. So I just wanted to add that piece in, that even by themselves, all these pieces are really such a beautiful way to start out the year. But then once you actually merge them together, it's a much larger context. And I again just want to honor and acknowledge that especially when I look at the astrology, where we're looking at how do we create new structures and forms for ourselves as human beings in a way that serves us to become a much more optimally expressed creature. And these are the kinds of forms, in my opinion, that even help us to access what's possible. And it's important to take the time out, especially as mothers and women, because in some ways we really are the natural authority of so many areas of life. And if we don't take the time to get clear, or we don't take the time to nourish ourselves so that we are able to operate at a more optimal level, then really the whole civilization isn't actually getting the medicine and the gifts that we have and need to be giving it right now as sort of guides that are connected to life in a particular way. So it's just such a beautiful opportunity to be able to see how these things coming together actually sets a pulse for the rest of the year that, to me, actually has much greater impact than just how it serves ourselves.
Definitely, definitely. And I just want to add, for anyone who's on the call, feel free to, there should be an icon at the bottom to raise your hand. So if you have a question, you can click that. You can also click on the chat and type in a question and let us know. Shortly, we're going to be shifting over to some mini readings that Marcela's offering for a few people who registered ahead of time to hop on this call. So just before we do that, though, I want to share some of the highlights from over the past few years. And I'll ask Marcela to chime in for what her highlight is, too, from her experience. But I know what a lot of the women have shared is the deep bonds and the deep connections that happen in such a short amount of time. And that combined with the practices that we're in, how they have facilitated their growth personally and professionally over the year to come. So it's just, I'm just elated when I hear mid-year, you know, the impact that it's had on someone's life and the direction that they've chosen to take, and things that they've created that, you know, beforehand they didn't know that they could do it. And so that to me is just the biggest gift ever. So, and then definitely the impromptu dance party that usually happens. We need more times to celebrate together. So really bringing in that fun celebration is awesome. How about for you, Marcela?
Wow. I feel like, gosh, I'm a little flooded because there were so many there's quite a few peak moments for me last year.
Yeah.
You know, I want to acknowledge the closing last year, actually, Carolyn, because that really has just continues to bubble up for me. And you shared something in that closing that was just really, really profound around what it means to be in service of the feminine. And it's your story, so I'm not going to share it now. You know, that's your story. I'm not going to repeat those words, but I just really got a sense from that at the end of the weekend, just how important it is that women really learn how to cleave toward what is true and the essential values that we hold as a priority, and not let anything get in between. Like for me, it's like, how do I not let anything get in between me and that, while also having the creative resource to be compassionate and empathetic and understanding and really, really, truly connected to the collective that I'm a part of. But there was some really strong medicine that completed the retreat last year that I know has really helped me, and I think has actually been sort of instrumental in how I'm now holding women as the keepers of a higher authority, as architects of our culture and our society, and the responsibility that is, and how what it is that you shared really activated for me what it means to be in service of that, and actually sort of bring forward a higher allegiance to that than I had in my life beforehand.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm so glad. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Beautiful. So moving forward, do you want to go ahead and do some of the mini readings? And
Sure.
I just want to say thanks to everyone who's joining us now, or if you're watching this later, please make sure to reach out to myself or Alexandra Elizabeth if you have any questions, and you can do that simply at info@livethrivelove.com. To find out more of the details about the retreat as well, you can go to my website, which is livethrivelove.com. The retreat is called Golden Chrysalis. It's January 2nd to the 5th, 2020, the first weekend of the new year, out in the Berkshires at Nine Mountains Retreat Center. So we're here with our wonderful guides who will be creating and supporting this container for everyone there through the weekend. And yeah, so thank you all.
All right. And so just to check in with you before I dive in, if I can see Catherine, shall I just give the readings?